Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. Just going to wait a few minutes for everyone to come in. Hold on a sec, let me just get to the first slide. Where are you guys all joining from? If you want to put that in the chat, I'd be interested in seeing that. Cool. Yeah, welcome to the Creating Custom Confluence Cloud Macros webinar. Thank you for joining us. Also, happy Easter. Hope you guys are get to eat some Easter eggs. And I'm gonna hopefully have a few days off as well. I know in Spain we have tomorrow and Monday off, so that's pretty awesome. Great. Well, everyone's joining. I am going to do the introductions and go through a bit of housekeeping. So my name is Jessie. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager for ScriptRunner for Confluence Cloud. Joining me in this webinar today is Bobby Bailey, who's our Senior Customer Success Manager on ScriptRunner. He's going to take you guys through the demo, so I'll let him introduce himself later on. We also have Lisa, the lovely Lisa, who is helping us run this webinar. So she's just in the background in the chat. Thanks, Lisa. So let me just go to the next slide. Hold on, my slide thing is not working. Okay, here we go. Okay. What are you guys going to hear about today? Are you in the right place? So it is what it says on the tin. Today we're going to be going through how to create custom cloud macros using ScriptRunner. From talking to a lot of our customers and consultants as well, we know macros is quite a hot topic, especially regarding cloud migration, because a lot of the macros that you used to have on-prem don't work the same on cloud, or they aren't available on cloud. And this is probably like something that not many people know about, but you can actually build custom cloud macros, your own macros using ScriptRunner. So today we just want to give you a bit of like a toolkit, like a runway to success, give you the tools and tips and how you can do that most easily. So Bobby's going to be taking you guys through that. So the agenda for today, I will be taking you guys through the introduction. So I think some of you might not necessarily know what ScriptRunner for Confluence Cloud is. So I'm just going to briefly explain what ScriptRunner is, what you can do with it, and then go through briefly the custom macro feature as well. And I'm going to hand over to Bobby, who's going to give a demo of the custom macro feature, just introduction, how you access it, like all the different points and tips he has. And then he's going to demo 3 macro scripts that we have. So one is related to user data macro, a label report macro, and a page info version 2 macro. So we do have a built-in macro called a page info macro, but this is like the bigger and better version of that. So Bobby's going to teach you how to script that. And then we have a Q&A section at the end for any questions as well. So just a few housekeeping things. You guys are on mute, but chat is enabled. So if you want to express yourself, feel free to do it there. Bobby and I won't be able to see direct messages. So if you have any questions, drop them in the Q&A box, and then we're going to answer them at the end of the webinar. So let's get into it. What is ScriptRunner for Confluence, and what can I do with it? I get asked this question a lot, especially at like conferences and everything, when people find out I look after ScriptRunner for Confluence. So in a nutshell, I would say that ScriptRunner for Confluence Cloud is an admin app that allows you to create complex automations, custom macros, and custom scripts to tailor Confluence to your exact business needs. So you can use ScriptRunner for a lot of things, but I think where it really shines is if you have like sort of like a more sophisticated use case or something very specific that you want your Confluence to do that it might not be able to do out of the box, or you can't find a marketplace app for. It's very tailored to your particular business process. ScriptRunner allows you and gives you the tools to do that without building basically a custom app. It's sort of the easier way for you to basically come up with a custom solution for a problem you're facing on your Confluence instance. So some of the features that allow you to do that, we have like automation features, which is our listeners and jobs. So listeners are basically the feature that allows you to create triggered automations. We give you the option to trigger automations based on 40 different Confluence events. Jobs are the feature that allows you to schedule automations. So for example, cleanup jobs, you want to purge trash every month. You can set that as a job. The other neat thing about jobs is that you can search using SQL. So you can actually get very specific with the content that you want the automation to be performed on using SQL. So we also have another feature called the script console. So that's where you can actually write your custom scripts. So using Groovy, which is what the kind of the scripting language used in ScriptRunner, and that allows you to interact with the Confluence REST APIs. You can script whatever you want and put it in there. And of course, we have our custom macros, which we're going to go through today. Some of the no-code. So listeners, job, script console, custom macros, you do need to know a bit of scripting. We do include no-code features in ScriptRunner for Confluence Cloud. So these are the kind of the main ones that are very popular with our customers. So the first one is kind of like copy space and copy page tree. So that's really useful if you want to create like a space template or a page tree template that you want to duplicate for project documentation. So with copy space, you can copy across permissions, labels, different content types, and also the page tree as well. So we also give you some bulk label management functionality. So you can bulk add, rename, and delete labels. You also have bulk cleanup functionality. So you have the ability to bulk delete attachments, comments, and purge trash for any kind of cleanup jobs. So those are some of the kind of the no-code features that you can take advantage of. And if you're interested at all, ScriptRunner for Confluence Cloud is available for a free 30-day trial on Elastic Marketplace. So check us out there. And then more specifically for the custom macro feature, it gives you the option. So right now, the custom macro feature gives you the option to create static macros. So the difference between static macros and dynamic macros, which is the more complex macro. Static macros display fixed content. So content that doesn't change unless you sort of manually edit it. So for example, that would be something like the code block macro, the display code blocks with. Whereas dynamic macro is a bit more complex. It allows user interaction, and it also allows you to connect with external data systems. So then it can pull real-time data and it can update in real time on the page. So for example, the Jira issues macro is an example of a dynamic macro. So at the moment, ScriptRunner only lets you script static macros. We are thinking of introducing the ability to script dynamic macros. I'd really be quite interested in seeing what you guys feel about that. So I'm actually going to run a poll right now to see if that's something interesting. And then if that's something that everyone's interested in, we can prioritize it on the roadmap. So let me know. I'm just going to run the poll real quickly. I'll just give you a few seconds to answer it. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I think a bit more 5 seconds. Okay, awesome. Thanks for your answers. Cool. So another thing to note about the custom macros, like all of ScriptRunner scripting areas, you use Groovy script. And the macros, you can save them, and basically you have the option to enable or disable them as well. So basically when you have them enabled, your custom macro, your users will see it in the normal macros menu, and they'll be able to basically see it, choose it, and use it when they're editing the page, essentially. So that's it, the brief overview of the custom macros feature. I'm going to now hand over to Bobby, who's going to go through the demonstration.
Cool, thank you so much. I'm going to share screen really quick. So let's do this one, share. And we should be looking at Confluence instance. So hello, so as Jessie introduced, my name is Bobby. I'm a customer success manager with the ScriptRunner product suite. And so in this, right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you A, where to find custom macros, B, how to build them, and then C, some examples of some custom macros that we've built so you can see what sort of process you need to go through when you're going to create them, sort of mindset you need to be in, and how you can actually achieve the goals that you need to with the feature. So first things first is how do we actually get to build a custom macro? So as you can see here, I'm in my Confluence instance. To access the feature, all you need to do is go up to the administrative section. And then from here, you go to the ScriptRunner section, go to macros. And then from here, you can select the ability to, when it loads up, create a custom macro here. So you can see that I've created 3 here, and we're going to go through those shortly. But just so you know, when you create a custom macro, it does become available on the page. It does take a few seconds for it to load and register, so just be a bit slightly patient. But you can see here that I've got multiple macros here that I've created and put into the page itself. We can also see if I, for example, go and check, all of the macros you create will have the ScriptRunner logo, so they're easily identifiable when you search and look for them. Also, excuse me, I'm going to mute myself every now and then because I have a ever such slight cough, and I don't want to be coughing down the microphone in your ears. Right, so how do we actually go ahead and create a custom macro? So if I look at the user data macro that I've created here, we get the option to provide generic information about the macro itself. So the name, description, whether or not it's enabled, the body type that we're going to be returning, and then the output type. This is all basic information about how your macro actually functions on a page itself. Here we write the scripts to define the data that we show and output the data we show. And I'm going to talk about this in a second. But at the bottom here, we also are able to define parameters. So we can add parameters to our custom macros, so they don't have to just be a straightforward, here's the data, here's what we're showing. You can actually have some controls over the parameters and be able to change what your macro shows based upon that information. These are the macro parameter types we have available to us right now. So I can have either a string or a username, which is the example that we have available to us here. Now the code. So when you're creating a custom macro, the reality is you just need to break your script down into 2 sections. The first section is getting the data that you need to show based obviously upon parameters, etc. The next is outputting that data in the correct format for Confluence to be able to show it. So you can see an example of how that's done here. So first things first is I'm getting the user data from the parameters that are defined by the person who's putting this onto the page. And then I'm using the REST API for Confluence to get information about that user. So here I've collected the data that I want to present on my page in this particular macro. Next, I will need to output that data. So here it's relatively quite simple in terms of its presentation, in terms of what I'm achieving here. But you can see I'm outputting all of that data in just some lines. This is the data for this public user, public name. Here's the ID. Here's the email address. I do a little bit extra here, which I wrap it in another macro. So basically, at any point in time, if you want to understand how you can find the format for this information here from a Confluence page, from a Confluence page, you can go to mod actions, advanced detail, and view the storage format. This gives you the storage format of the page you're currently looking at. So if, for example, I wanted to build out a table, I wasn't sure how that was actually structured on the Confluence side of things, I could go and create a table on a blank page, view the storage format to see how it should actually look, and take this and input it into my macro so that it knows how to structure it and it feeds all that information correctly into the feature. And that is pretty much it in terms of how you go and create a custom macro. It's quite straightforward. And then when you go to actually add this macro into your page, so if I go to edit this page here, let's go down here and I say, I want to add the user data macro. We can see that the parameters give me the option here. So I can go and add my own user and then click save. And that adds, we've got a duplicate here, but you can add that information and that's it. That's it. You've added the macro into the page. So if I go into this page now, we can see that the user data macro is being used for my name. It gives me the user ID, which is useful information if you're looking for data. It doesn't actually get the email address. I'm pretty sure that's because Atlassian's REST API doesn't provide you the email address for GDPR reasons. But what you should also realize is because I've used the user data REST API, so I've used this one here. What I can do is if I go to the Confluence Cloud REST API, I can see all of the data available to me here that I can extract and use in this particular macro. So if I go to the get user API call, you can see that this is all of the data that is returned from that particular API call. So I have free reign to take any of this data that I want to do, put it into that macro for presentation based upon what I want. And that is true of any REST API call you can make inside Confluence. So we look at the second example, which is the label table or label report. If I go into this custom macro here, you can see that I've got a parameter for a string that gives me the ability to define which label I want this report to be defined on. I've been able to take that. I can get the label data. And now I have options. I could create a report of all of the information that's available for this particular label, or I could use the label for more information. So instead now what I can do is I can make an API call to get me every page that has this label applied. Now I have a list of all of the pages that have this label applied. What I can do is for each page that I get back from that result, I can create a table. So I define the beginning of the table here. And then what I do is for each page, I go and extract the information from the API and I go and add it in as a table in the table structure on the Confluence content formatting, and I can access any of the information about these pages. So for this particular simple demo, I just get the title, the name, and the public name of the user who created that page. But again, if I go to the API endpoint for any of this content, I can go and extract a significant amount more data if I really wanted to. In fact, we're using version 2 for this. So if I go to version 2 of the REST endpoint, I go to get page or get pages with a label. Actually, it's this one. Get, or maybe it's on this one, actually. I can't remember which API call I used, but you get the idea. You can get all of the information that's available in the that's returned from the information from the API, and you can structure it out into your custom macro as you wanted to. So you can see here how we've done that, and you can see here that we've been able to create a report on every page that has this testing label applied to it. And then finally, you can even improve existing macros if they don't meet your entire current needs. So for example, what should have gone back there? For example, we have already built in, and you can see here, we already have the page info macro. This gives you the ability to put a macro on a page that shows data about the page that it's currently on. So create a date, etc., this sort of information. But it's not ultra dynamic. I might want to, for example, show the created date of my parent page. And you can't do that with the current page info macro, but we can create a second version of the page info macro that does allow me the ability to do that. So if I go into this macro here, you can see the parameters that we define is the information type that we want to show, as well as which page we want to show. So I have 3 options here. I could leave it blank to default to the current page. I could put in this parent variable that gives me the definition to say, I need to go and show the parent page, or I can give it a unique page ID. So I can actually go and extract data from a page that's unrelated to this current page I'm working on by giving a specific page ID. Then in the script, so as you can see, we've got a little bit more complicated now. We're using multiple parameters to define not only what data we're extracting, but how we're presenting that data, or what data we're presenting. So you can see we've checked to see, is it a number? If so, it's going to be a page ID. Otherwise, are we using the parent, or are we using the default macro? So the default page. So you can see here, we can use the API endpoint to get that specific page information for the parent, or we can just get the generic page information, and then based upon the information type. So again, we're using the parameter to define what data we're actually going to be showing. You can see that if it's the title, we just output the title. If it's the created date, we format the date into a human readable format and we output it. Or if it's a status, and then if it's the owner ID, we can do all of this. It's all available to us through the API endpoint. And then we just return that value again. So again, if I go to this page, what we're currently doing, we're using the page created date, and we have page info v2, which is currently pointed at the parent created date information type for this particular. So if I go to, let's close this, the page itself it's referring to is this parent test page that was created and last updated on 14th. I can actually go and see page history. We can see that this page was actually, the date's quite wrong. I think I haven't accounted for the date time modification, but nonetheless, an example of what you can do and achieve. So those are 3 examples of the things you can do and achieve. And obviously, these are relatively straightforward and simple examples. You can do much more complicated and weird and wonderful things because you have full access to not only the API endpoints, but also how you structure that data. It's entirely up to you. You can build it upon based upon your own client or internal needs. But it's not only Confluence based as well. So one thing that is technically possible, if you haven't heard, we've released a tool relatively recently. We've been pushing our latest tool, ScriptRunner Connect, which gives you the ability to extract data or create automations, integrations between your entire tool suite. So that's not only the Atlassian tool suite, but external tool suites. What you could actually do now is you could create in ScriptRunner Connect, you can create a custom event listener. So this gives you the ability to essentially generate an API endpoint that executes a script on ScriptRunner Connect. You could have this API endpoint built into a custom macro, so that what ScriptRunner for Confluence Cloud will do is it will say to ScriptRunner Connect, trigger this script. ScriptRunner Connect will then go and communicate with any tool you want, essentially, as long as it's got an HTTP-based REST API, collate all that data together, send it back to the custom macro feature, which can then present that data out to the users. So by using not only the custom macro feature, but other tools in your ScriptRunner suite, you can actually start to build reports completely custom based upon data from tools that aren't even in your Atlassian suite by using the power of scripting, REST APIs, and the ability to structure it how and when and if you need to. So after all that, I will present the resources page. So this is a little bit of follow-up after the demonstration and the introduction that Jessie gave. The recording and the scripts will be emailed to you. The email will be slightly delayed due to the Easter weekend, but we will be sending the recording of this entire presentation as well as the scripts so that you can access the scripts that I've just shown you, make modifications, improve them, do what you want with them. We'll be sending you, we have a link here to the documentation, which we'll send to you as well. We'll be put in the chat as well. Script library. So obviously most people who use ScriptRunner are familiar with the script library, where we have the ability to view and present you with a load of scripts that you can use for free, just use as either examples or as is. This will be expanding as well, especially for ScriptRunner for Confluence Cloud. You'll start to see more and more scripts here. So definitely keep your eye on this page here so you can keep on up to date with some of the stuff that we're releasing and see how it might be useful for yourself. And then finally get in touch either with myself, Jessie, through the support portal, or in general ways, there are loads of ways for you to contact us. This is not a speak now or forever hold your silence sort of webinar. If you have questions tomorrow, next week, next month, definitely get in touch and get in contact, and we are more than happy to help out. And now is opportunity for questions.
Yep, there were a couple of questions in the chat. Bobby, I'll just read them to you. I think the first one was from Matt, and I already answered in the chat, but we can go through it for everyone else's benefit. Like what Matt asked, what level of Confluence do we need to get custom macros, or is it just part of ScriptRunner only? Yes, so Matt, as I mentioned in the chat, so the ability to create custom macros is a ScriptRunner feature only in Confluence Cloud. In Confluence On-Prem, you do have the functionality of user macros, which is a native Confluence functionality to create custom macros. But on Confluence Cloud at the moment, they don't offer that feature. So if you want to create custom macros, you'll have to do it through ScriptRunner. And then we also had a question from Marjo. How did you get the AC local ID in the macro body?
Not sure I understand that question. Could you go into a little bit more detail about what you exactly are referring to there, just so I can, because I don't want to give you an answer to if I don't understand the question fully. But there was a follow-up, can a macro be used to customize other sections in Confluence, like hide the page tree / space admin settings, etc. So as far as I'm aware, no, macros are designed to be specifically used on a page, so that they can essentially to present data. And that's what we've built our custom macro feature to be able to do. You can write scripts that can do a load of powerful things, but it is contained within that macro itself. So you can't write a script to go and then modify, for example, the HTML, CSS, or things like that. I know that obviously being able to modify the appearance of Confluence is a ScriptRunner feature that's heavily used in on-prem. Unfortunately, due to limitations of the cloud platform, we can't provide that same level of modification functionality, and you can't really use macros to achieve that, unfortunately. And somewhere there was a param set AC local ID. Let's see if we can find what we're talking about. AC local, which, do you know which macro it was? Or I'll find it. We'll see. Let's find out. Let's do it live. Why not? Let's find out the first one. Okay. User data. But cool. I'm not sure. AC local ID, the param set. Is it this one? Oh, is it using, you mean the ID? So, okay, so yes, so even in this one. So this, I mean, this is probably actually, oh, AC macro. Okay, yep, I'm with you. I'm with you now. I'm with you now. Yep. Okay, cool. So basically, for anyone else who maybe I'm the only person confused, so that might be the fact. So when you build a macro into a page, it looks like this. So you have AC structure macro, AC name, data, AC local ID. So this local ID is the ID of the macro itself. So if you wanted to get the macro ID, the easiest way to do that is literally just go and add the macro to a page. So if I go and say, let me add this one here. Let's go and add the code snippet macro. When I update it here, the macro ID should be global. Yeah, it should be the same regardless. If I go to advanced details, there might be an easier way to get this macro ID as well. That may be true. This is the way I do it because this is the way I'm used to. But if I go and add the macro to a page and then view the storage format, you can see exactly how that macro should be structured, including the ID here. So I can go and access it that way. That's how I do it, at least. Does that answer your question? I hope it does.
Hopefully that answers your question. We also have a question from Maria. She's asked whether this webinar will be recorded. Yes, Maria, it is recorded, and we'll be sending it out to you by email. But it might be a few days delayed just because of the Easter break, but it is coming.
Ooh.
Yeah, any last questions? If not, I think that's it. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll be sending out emails with the script and the recording, as I mentioned, next week. But if you have any questions, feel free to get in contact with me or Bobby via emails.
Thank you everyone for your time.
All right. Happy Easter. Bye.